Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Buenos dias. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. My name is Tina Solis, and I've served on several committees in the church. I have, since coming here, served on the Black Lives Matter group. That's the one I stayed with the longest. I'm still on it. But I served on member care, the Capitol campaign. Let us begin by recognizing the early name of this place, Yana Wana, the traditional lands of the Coahuil Tecan people. They and all the plants and animals were the original stewards of this land. Let us remember their care and live with the understanding that we belong to this place. If you are new to us or visiting for the first time today, we welcome you and invite you to fill out one of the visitor cards, either on paper or online. We'd like to get to know you and follow up with you. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope you will find your place with us. Now, this is a welcoming place, and we hope you will get to know people and let them know you. To support this process, please take a moment now to turn to people around you and exchange greetings.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you. Justice Sunday is designed to connect Unitarian Universalist congregations with the UU Service Committee. Begun at the outset of World War II to alleviate the needs of persecuted people in Europe during the beginnings of the Nazi Holocaust, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee continues its service of justice and compassion on the front lines of today's human rights movements, wherever they are. And as we will learn today, they are global, as we know those needs are. I invite us now to rise in body or spirit and turn in your teal hymnal to number 1018. We're going to sing together. As soon as you stand and open up your books to number 1018, we will wait as long as it takes. You're doing good. All right. Jaime, how does it go? Come go justice. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Where I'm bound. You did it, and you did it well. Thank you. Yeah. Tracey, come on up here. I'm going to introduce Tracey because she's going to read our chalice lighting words for us today. The flaming chalice symbolizes the ever-growing and transforming tradition in which we participate, and it unites our members in profound consideration of matters of worth. Today's chalice lighting will be read by Tracey Homburg, who became a member of First UU about a year ago. She focuses her time and treasure on social justice issues, especially those concerning reproductive rights. She and her husband, Paul, hello, Paul, also like to participate in celestial celebrations circle rituals. Tracey, take it away.
Right. A famous verse in the Quran tells us that with hardship comes ease. With hardship comes ease. And in this vein, we welcome ease when we work for justice. We welcome ease when acting with compassion. In lighting this chalice today, may we experience ease, no matter how difficult the efforts that we are called to make. And may we rekindle our thirst for compassion and justice in us and in our world.
It's time for our covenant. We're called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community, where all are welcomed as blessings. So I invite us now to recite our covenant that articulates our promises and binds us together. Please read. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall be drawn together. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia. Su sacramento es la búsqueda de la verdad. Y su oración es el servicio. Convivir en paz, buscar sabiduría en libertad, dar a la humanidad nuestro servicio fraternal, para que todas las almas crezcan en armonía con la divinidad. Así pactamos el uno con el otro.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to fight the unbeatable foe, to reach the unreachable star.
Sung with great spirit. Thank you so much, Debu, and thank you, Jaime. What a theme for today's service on justice. It's time now to share our joys and sorrows. We have plenty. And at this time, I invite us to enter into our hearts and minds in a very intentional way, and to come forward up the side aisles to light candles for what we think is right, that our hearts may be led to a deeper commitment to justice. So let us savor this moment and deepen our intentions while Jaime plays meditation music for us. Please come forward down the side aisles. Reading from our book of joys and sorrows, we honor the life of Alexei Navalny, the Russian patriot and opposition leader. I was so mindful of him as Debu sung so beautifully about dreaming the impossible dream. Imagine being the opposition leader to that severe dictatorship in Russia. Navalny's life was recently ended, and we wish him rest. May his example seed other courageous oppositions in Russia and support the people to regain their power. And for justice, equity, and the end to the war in Gaza, and plans to rebuild, may it be so. For protections of our American democracy, that free and fair elections may continue, and that election officials and judges will receive protections as they, too, exercise their courage. And for our dear members, Sally Dunlop, Doris Norton, and other veteran members who've done so much for our church, may they receive our support in this stage of their worthy lives. For the joy of having Peggy Lippert with us today. Welcome, Peggy. Choir member Barb Dougherty is recovering from a medical procedure and appreciates your healing intentions and food contributions to the meal train, which has been organized by our member care team. And this final concern, joy, the General Assembly of Unitarian Universalists this year is completely virtual. It'll be online from June 20th to the 23rd, and if you want to participate and even get involved in a payment plan for registration for this gathering, you'll need to go online to uua.org/GA and register before February 29th. And to help you with this here in our own congregation is the veteran of many General Assemblies, Sylvia Wheeler. So please contact Sylvia for questions or comments. I want to share with you a prayer that was written by one of our UU ministerial colleagues, D. Scott Cooper. He writes, "There's a glow far off in the distance, a light to which no path leads. And we know that each time we gather together to help one another and join with others, we can begin to heal the world. Each time we stand up for justice and what is right. Each time we do work and we hope and we love, we buck the odds, and a spark is created to add intensity to that far-off light. We join with others who see and turn toward the glow, and we travel toward it as a beacon, where indifference is flattened and a path begins to form, and more are led to join us, and obstacles are removed, and a road widens as we trod along it. Many approach the light, strengthened by our works, and we join them as we light every candle. And although many are already lighted, the blaze never diminishes, and we continue to travel out into the world to light the darkness and begin over and over, our joining with each other together in lighting the candles. We continue knowing that one day we, our children, our children's children, and their children's children will no longer have to travel that same long road, because we pray a new dawn will arrive, and justice will be more commonplace, and poverty will be vanquished, and the beloved community, which we so are wanting to build here, will stand illuminated in the fullness of the light. What a dream. May all that we are and all that we do help us realize this truth. Blessed be. I invite Bridget Laughlin, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, to come forward with a story. Who wants to join Bridget?
Come on up. So I have a question for y'all. What is that thing up there that's all lit up?
Big candle.
It is a big candle, but it's a specific type of candle. It is a flaming chalice. How many of you have seen flaming chalices before? A few? How many of you know where they come from? How did it get started? Does anybody know? The candles can be made from wax, yep. So in Unitarian Universalist churches all over the country, and during service, they light a flaming chalice. It is the symbol of our faith. It started back in World War II. Who knows something about World War II? Anyone? Yeah. It was horrible, yes. That's pretty much it, yeah. What happened was, in Europe, there were many, many cities that were being bombed, and there was fire raining down from the sky, and a lot of people needed to escape the war. And so they were called refugees. And they were trying to figure out how to go to safer places, like the United States was one of those places. And the Unitarian Service Committee, which was based in the United States, was trying to help some of those refugees escape the war. But the problem was, all these refugees spoke all these different languages. They spoke German, they spoke Yiddish, they spoke Italian, they spoke French, all kinds, and most of the Unitarians only spoke English. So they needed a symbol. Yes.
Don't forget about Mandarin.
Okay. There weren't a lot of Mandarin refugees, but maybe a few. And so they decided they needed a symbol, so they hired an artist to make a symbol. And his name was Hans Deutsch. And so Dr. Charles Joy from the Unitarian Service Committee went to Portugal to meet Mr. Deutsch because Mr. Deutsch was Austrian, but he was a refugee in Portugal at the time. And he came up with this symbol right here for the Unitarian Service Committee. It was a flame in a chalice, which is like a cup, inside a circle. And it said Unitarian Service Committee. It is a cool symbol, right? And so they started using this symbol on all of their paperwork. And whenever a refugee would see this symbol, they would know that it was a safe place. And this paperwork would get them out of the country into a safe place. And then later, in the 1960s, when the Unitarians and Universalists combined, they kind of kept the same symbol, but they added 2 circles to the outside. Because one circle represented Unitarianism, and one circle represented Universalism. And they came together as one. And they put the chalice kind of off to the side as a symbol that there's always room for learning more things and for things to change. So there's extra space on the right. And then, about 10 years ago, the Unitarian Universalist Association changed their symbol to this one. It is pretty. It is a new version of the flaming chalice. It's an artist's rendition. But all of these symbols mean the same thing. This is a safe place to learn and to grow and to talk to each other and to believe and to search for meaning. So, that is our story about the flaming chalice. We are going to go out to play. You can either stay with your family or you can come down to Building 5 and play with us inside there for the rest of the service. Thank you.
I will guide you safely. May a friend be always at your side. May the love you find here in this moment guide your way and fill you with delight. Que sea seguro tu camino, que un amigo esté siempre a tu lado, que el amor que sientes este momento te guíe, te llena de placer. How many of you knew that story about the flaming chalice, huh? How many of you didn't know that? Yeah, all right, something to learn. Today's offering is for the facilities of our church, where we always have a need to maintain and repair our campus. And some of you like to give your time and talent, especially when we call for a day of cleaning and fixing up, like has been scheduled for Saturday morning, March 23rd. I hope many of you will join me and other staff and volunteers to our cleanup and fix-up day. Your support is very much appreciated. Yet on our 60-plus-year-old campus, we feel like a lot of the things that need to be done can be managed by your financial contributions. And so twice a year, we share the plate with facilities, and this is one of those times. So the ushers will come forward and pass the baskets for those of us in the sanctuary. And for those of you viewing online, we invite you to make a contribution on our website or on our QR code. Thank you so much for your generosity. And thank you, ushers, for passing the baskets. Our anthem today is by this new group put together by Stephen Spikes called Spikes Chamber. We bless these gifts, and we bless the givers. Thank you so much. And as I listened to the group play, I thought, what happens when you get two guitarists, a cellist, and a bass player walking into a Unitarian Universalist church? Maybe some humoresque. Tina, it's time for you to share something that's been on your heart. During this month of honoring justice, we've been asking members of our social justice team to give personal reflections. Today's your turn. Thank you, Tina.
Okay. I decided to talk about racial justice because it seems to me that every justice issue kind of boils down to either race or religion or money. in the world. Or maybe it's just fear. But I want to read to you from the managing director of the National Equity Project. I read this about 3 years ago. Lisa Lasky, by the way, is her name. She writes, media coverage of the pandemic of white supremacy and violence against black people, when combined with the shelter-in-place orders for COVID, loss of jobs and income, and diminished social interactions, replaced with an increased ingestion of news, blogs, op-eds, all espousing a commitment to diversity, inclusion, justice, and equity, pouring out of every business, corporation, organization, and association, had everybody talking. During that time especially, how many times, she writes, did I hear some white person say one of the following: this is such a big, enormous, overwhelming problem. Where do we even begin? Or it's not just white people mistreating blacks. Look what blacks do to each other. Look at the racism from other people of color towards blacks. Or we need law and order. Nothing can happen in the midst of the chaos they're causing now with those protests. But I'm a good white person. I don't hate or mistreat anyone. I have black, fill in the blank, friends, relatives, children, spouse. Or stop telling me I have white privilege. Nobody handed me anything. I'm still struggling to get by. And this one. This is really complicated stuff. It's hard to know what is the right thing to do. But it's not complicated. In fact, it's actually obvious. It was and is obvious that it's past time to face the reality that the injustices recorded and reported didn't just happen randomly or by chance. They are and were the result of hundreds of years of lies, distortions, and misrepresentations fed to us in our schools, our institutions, our government, our media, our popular culture, within our family, our loved ones, and even our faith communities. It is also obvious that it's past time to stop making the excuse that because white people today haven't directly caused this pain or injustice with our individual actions, we're not responsible to fix it. It's also obvious white people benefit every day within an intentionally designed and orchestrated set of systems, policies, laws, institutional arrangements, ways of thinking and operating that offers whites unearned advantages. Seeing and acknowledging this makes it obvious that simply the intention to be an ally and a friend with people of color will not be enough. For me, these things were obvious, but one thing that has not always been obvious to me was how a culture of white supremacy hasn't been seen by me or others as something that has stripped away at the humanity of all people. The implicit bias white people struggle with has its roots in the kind of soul murder required to enslave other people and to oppress others. White supremacy cannot be maintained in the enslaver without murdering a part of your humanity. When confronted with facts, history, and the flaws within entrained thinking, white people can become pretty darn defensive, pretty frustrated, pretty angry. This is, after all, some of the most uncomfortable stuff. If denial can somehow subside, then sometimes shame and guilt kicks in, and that can just paralyze people. Without a lot of courage and support, what's obvious is that white people can quickly start searching for the nearest exit ramp away from listening, seeing, feeling, frustrating, being angry. Shame and guilt can make people shut down, and no one is served by that. I'll tell you, it's something people of color don't need and don't want. White allies who are ashamed of being born white would be just another burden to people of color. Feminists don't need don't need or want male allies who are ashamed to be born male. So I'm giving you an analogy. The first UU San Antonio Black Lives Matter racial justice group has endeavored to read and listen and learn about white supremacy culture and actions we can take. We've hosted black films and the filmmakers, documentary viewings. We've endeavored to listen to and believe the stories shared by people of color in person, in film, in books. About a dozen congregants of this church attended 2 Zoom classes we offered in the last few years. One was titled Unlearning Racism, which was compiled from multiple sources, I believe. Maggie put that together, I believe. The other was taken from the book Me and White Supremacy. And dozens of you attended some open discussions sponsored by the Black Lives Matter group related to the 8th principle. This committee also partners with others in racial justice action across San Antonio and even the nation. Processing my own implicit bias is mirror work that requires humility and a willingness to be vulnerable in ways that have felt really repugnant to me. I was far happier going to protests and marches, writing checks to the NAACP, and doing all the performative work of pointing my finger at the racism in every policy, practice, religion, and politic worldwide. It turned out that honestly looking within so I might become a reliable, trustworthy ally in racial justice work takes a commitment far greater than the virtue signaling at parading issues we all see every day. It'd be lovely to wrap up this reflection in some beautiful feel-good ribbon. I don't have it. But I will share that staying committed to racial justice issues is a lifelong effort. And I have found a lot of support for that work here with many of you.
Thank you for sharing from your heart and your experience, Tina. Thanks to Bridget's sharing of the genesis of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, I'll pass on introducing UUSC to you again. Although many of you may know that the American filmmaker Ken Burns has made a terrific documentary about this story of the Unitarian Service Committee that became the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. It's been shown several times on PBS. It's called Sharp's War. How many of you are familiar with Sharp's War? Well, I'd encourage you to look it up and watch it, or part of it. The Reverend Waitstill Sharp and his wife Martha were called by the Unitarian Service Committee to move to Europe and to find places for their children and growing family to live. He was the minister in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And when they got to Europe, they had to be very creative and secretive because the Nazis were always watching, and what they were doing in helping Jews, blacks, LGBTQ people, and other immigrants to leave Germany and Europe was very dangerous. But they helped them with their paperwork, and they helped them to get to safe houses that were marked with the flaming chalice on the windows. They would sneak people past guards while wearing disguises. And they helped these refugees with food and clothing at a time when these basic needs were hard to find. The Sharps were very brave, but they didn't do their work alone. They worked by forming collaborations with people in the Jewish communities throughout Europe and throughout the world. They worked with Unitarians in the United States who donated money and other supplies so that more and more people could be served. And this is how the Unitarian Service Committee was started over 80 years ago and has since the merger of Unitarian and Universalism in 1961 become known as the UU Service Committee. It still works all around the world to help people who are being treated badly to find safety and have their human rights honored and respected. For example, UUSC right now is working mightily with migrant communities who have fled their homes in Central America because of violence and extreme poverty and are seeking asylum in the United States. They work with the migrants in Central America. They work with them throughout the routes that they take, through jungles and all kinds of places, cities in Mexico and other cities in the Central America, and they work with them once they arrive here in the United States. And some of you may know about the terrible genocide taking place in Myanmar, formerly called Burma, with the Rohingya people. They're facing all kinds of inhumane treatment and displacement by their government. UUSC is there too. And they're working throughout the world with refugees who are threatened by earthquakes and fires and drought and polluted water. And for example, in the Marshall Islands, where the islands are disappearing under the ocean, they're working to help people get to higher ground and to try to balance some of this discrimination that takes place toward low-income people as a result of climate change. Notable UU leaders have given the following messages about UUSC. Susan Frederick Gray, the immediate past president of our UUA, says, "I'm proud to support the UUSC because of their commitment to partnership and supporting justice and human rights, organizing across the world. Human rights are under attack everywhere, and the wisdom and courage to fight for justice always lives inside a community and its people." And that's UUSC's commitment, is to work with grassroots communities in these places, to organize them, and that's a thing worth supporting. These words are from Melissa Carville-Ziemer, the co-director of the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. "I'm grateful for their work of advancing and defending human rights in the world. I first became familiar with it when I was a parish minister, and I was particularly pleased with the programs that they offered to religious professionals, like yours truly, in sponsored programs to teach religious how to immerse themselves in learning journeys and how to go overseas and serve in missions." Bill Schultz, President Emeritus of UUSC and past President of the UUA, enthusiastically exclaims, "I support the UUSC because few other human rights organizations understand the dynamics of power anywhere near as well. We usually think of power, a top-down power, politicians, governments, big corporations, majority racial communities. That's turning around now. UUSC understands that the way you get big power is to move by seeding the grassroots, working with people at the ground level to put pressure on the powerful and create alternative institutions for social change. As your minister, I'm pleased and proud to summarize to you that the UUSC is currently working with more than 15 other locally led grassroots organizations to accomplish their mutual missions and advance human rights. UUSC can only do their work because of the support of individuals and congregations like ours. And I'm not going to pass the plate for them today. I'm going to invite those of you who would like to have plates passed for the UUSC to go to our Share the Plate meetings that will take place this spring and nominate them to be one of our recipients of a Share the Plate. UUSC has also brought to us Equal Exchange, for whom you can purchase fair trade coffee, tea, and cocoa, and cacao nibs. Equal Exchange's mission is to build long-term trade partnerships with developing nations that are economically just and environmentally sound and foster mutual beneficial relationships. So if you're interested in purchasing some of these things from Fair Trade, if you purchase up to $135 worth, you get free shipping. So contact us in the office and we'll find a way for you to support Fair Trade. Thanks for your interest in Justice Sunday today, for listening to the wise words of Tina, and for enjoying the music of our service, as we will continue to explore the topic of justice for one more Sunday, next Sunday, right here. I invite you to turn into your teal hymnals one more time, and let's go to 1008, a sweet conclusion to all this pensive thinking. Let's sing, "When Our Heart is in a Holy Place." Rise in body or spirit. is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. Please be seated while I extinguish the chalice for all of us. Woo! Lung power. May we have the hindsight to learn from the past, the foresight to make future plans with wisdom, and the insight to do it all with compassion and care. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for lending your voices and your ears. Let's go from here and make the world a better place. Jaime?